Living in a fantasy, trying to fake the fame, I'm a star in life actually. They never have me, why they wanna school me when they lacking in the faculty? You can try and take them dynamic and sit like calorie. We ain't in a similar bracket or even category. Why you go by as big as a planet? I'm in a galaxy. Haters think they're fire like Tinder, but they ain't meant for me. Told the minute sweeper still holding you like a cavity. Toe to toe with me, got you looking like you an amputee. Thinking you could beat me was a fantasy, y'all.
Well, this is it, isn't it? The final Dragon Ball movie review of the month. It has been a crazy ride, to say the very least, but we've gone through it all together, and now we are here at the final one. And then after that, it's just a tier list, and we just go through all the sagas of the show. Now, the saga videos may or may not be a little inconsistent, because I have to go do a little family thing this Friday, and I probably won't be back till Saturday, so worst case scenario, I'll just do a brief talk about the certain sagas. So, worst case scenario, some of them will be less analytical than the others, so just from a sheer lack of time. It's not anyone's fault, it's not, it's just circumstance. Anywho, let's dive into our final movie review of Super Saiyan-Tember 2. What's up, what's happening? It's going to be about the animation, including 2 Super Saiyans that fight for the fate of the Earth. Jeez, that should be a freaking rapper or something. And welcome to my review of Dragon Ball Super Superhero for my 5th best movie of 2022, if you don't remember. And, it earned that spot on the list. I'm just going to say that right now. This is still a fantastic movie. This is still a great movie. But not as great as DBS Broly. Not even close. But it still has a lot of great things going for it, so there's a lot to talk about. This is a very lengthy summary, so I can't really do any facts or anything like that. We're just going to do the summary, voice acting, written review, and then final thoughts. And then see you tomorrow for the updated movie tier list. So, without further ado, this is my review of Dragon Ball Super Superhero. A year overdue, but screw it, we're doing it now. Let's dive in. A long time ago, there existed an evil organization known as the Red Ribbon Army, led by Commander Red, which we'll talk more about when we get to the Red Ribbon Army saga. Though they were seemingly defeated by the young child Goku, their head scientist, Dr. Gero, escaped and many years later was responsible for the creation of the androids and Cell. We'll talk more about him when we get to the android saga. Magenta, the son of Commander Red, voiced by Charles Martinet, yes, he's voiced by Mario. You wouldn't know it unless you knew ahead of time, because he sounds nothing like Mario, showing how talented of a voice actor he is. Also, happy belated birthday, Charles Martinet, before I forget. Has spent his time hoping to bring about the return of the Red Ribbon Army, using Red Pharmaceuticals as a front. He and his second-in-command, Carmine, and his goofy freaking hair, learn of Dr. Hedo, the grandson of Dr. Gero. As Carmine, also this kind of tries to give a somewhat small little explanation for Android 21's existence, pretty much making that character also official canon. As Carmine drives into the Red Ribbon compound, hidden away under a holographic lake, which is cool, I will admit that, he fails to notice that he is being followed by Hachimaru, Dr. Hedo's little spy bee robot thing. Carmine delivers a video presentation on Dr. Hedo to Magenta, which shows a family tree consisting of his grandfather Dr. Gero, grandmother Vami, who is later known as Android 21, and his uncle Gevo, who before his death became the model for Android 16, explaining that weird silhouette flashback thing we saw in the actual anime. Although a genius, Dr. Hedo is unable to find steady work due to troubling research which includes resurrecting previously deceased humans and using them to run a convenience store for him in order to shore up research funds, a crime that leaves him imprisoned. Fair enough. Magenta and Carmine decide to meet him outside the prison upon his release. Dr. Hedo is released from prison dressed in a superhero-style suit and meets Carmine and Magenta, who pull up in a car and invite him in. He reveals he already knows who they are, having used his spy robot to trail them ever since Carmine first came around the prison. Magenta proposes that Dr. Hedo come work for them, though he is reluctant, knowing that Red Pharmaceuticals is secretly the Red Ribbon Army, his grandfather's connection to the organization causing trouble for himself and his parents. As a superhero fan, he also takes issue with their plans for world domination. I mean, that's fair enough. This freaking thing can stop falling over. Sorry about that. Freaking tripod. Stay! You know what? Fine. Here. Like that. Piece of crap. Where was I? Carmine attempts to threaten Hedo with a gun, but Hedo reveals that he's injected himself with serum that toughened his skin to withstand a certain degree of shock, or impact as it's said in the English dub. In addition, Hachimaru, who lives in a compartment on his glove, carries a lethal poison. Magenta appeals to his sense of heroism and informs him that they believe Capsule Corporation is serving as the headquarters for a collection of aliens set on world domination themselves, and that the androids in Cell were part of a plan to stop them. You know, lying straight to the dude's face. He shows Hedo footage of future Trunks killing Frieza, and Hedo agrees to assist them and to contribute his research in creating the ultimate android superheroes. 6 months later, Piccolo trains 3-year-old Pan in the woods near his home. Pan wants to learn how to fly, but is currently unable to do so. Piccolo tells her not to worry about it, and it will come to her naturally in time. Pan asks if it's true her father could really be stronger than her grandfather Goku, as she has never seen Gohan in a fight. Piccolo says that he could be, but he isn't so sure about him at the moment. Pan heads off to kindergarten and Piccolo returns to his little house. Piccolo receives a call from Videl, asking him to pick up Pan after kindergarten, as she's busy preparing her martial arts school for a tournament, in likelihood that year's Tenkaichi Budokai. And Gohan is busy with his research. Piccolo pays Gohan a visit at his home and explains why he can't go and pick up Pan. Gohan talks about how busy he is and tries to explain his research, but Piccolo isn't interested, instead asking him if his research is more important than family and implores him to train in case evil were to ever show up again. Gohan waves off the notion, proclaiming things will be alright as long as Goku and Vegeta are around. Piccolo throws a punch at Gohan who blocks it, but then he strikes him in the stomach with another blow. He changes Gohan's clothes into the traditional gi and weighted cape that Piccolo gave him when he was a kid, with Gohan collapsing under the weight. Piccolo encourages him to leave it on and agrees to pick up Pan. Piccolo returns home and begins to meditate when he suddenly is attacked by Gamma 2. He realizes Gamma is an android and notices the red ribbon logo. Gamma 2 tells Piccolo he was sent there on a mission to subjugate the Namekian, but decides instead to kill him. The two fight and Gamma 2 believes he's killed Piccolo and leaves. Piccolo, having just managed to dodge Gamma 2's attack and slip away in the dust, follows the android back to the Red Ribbon base. There, Piccolo subdues a guard and steals his uniform to use as a disguise. I really like that Piccolo goes undercover in this. It really adds a new, different layer to these movies that we haven't seen before, a sense of espionage, if you will. Piccolo finds his way into a control room where Magenta, Carmine, Dr. Hedo, and the two Gammas are holding a meeting, along with a number of soldiers standing guard. Gamma 1 chastises Gamma 2 for not confirming Piccolo's dead body and reveals via camera footage that he got away. Angry over this, Magenta says that if this mistake reveals this identity to their enemy, they'll have to hasten their plans. He orders Dr. Hedo to finish up his work on Cell Max, but Hedo insists the two Gammas can finish the project job on their own. He is also hesitant to activate it as his control system isn't finished, meaning he could easily turn against them. Overhearing the conversation about Cell Max, Piccolo slips away to contact Bulma. He asks if Goku and Vegeta are around, but they're off training with Beerus. Again. He asks Bulma to contact Whis. While waiting, he heads to Korn's tower to acquire some sensu beans. On Beerus' planet, Broly and Goku are engaged in a training match. When Broly starts to get carried away, Goku asks him to back down lest he run rampant again. Meanwhile, Vegeta is shown meditating and explains to Goku that this is a form of training. He asks if Goku noticed at the Tournament of Power the gap between Jiren and their power may not have been so great in the traditional sense. However, Jiren was able to save all his energy for specific instances of attack. This allowed him to put out greater offensive power, while also saving his own strength. Vegeta focuses on being able to fight in the same way. Whis applauds Vegeta for realizing this and proposes a training match between the three Saiyans. But Vegeta refuses if Broly will be joining, as they'll all be in trouble if he gets carried away again. Meanwhile, Beerus has woken up from a 4-month nap, only to find Lemmo, Chi-Lai, and Broly living on his planet. I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie is that they don't really explain that. I thought they'd still stay on Vampa, but whatever. Goku says that this was the best way to keep Broly safe from Frieza. Oh, they do explain, I'm just being stupid. Best way to keep Broly safe from Frieza. After tasting Lemmo's food and finding Chi-Lai to be hot, the first time he's actually found anyone hot in apparently a very long time, he decides that they can stay. While the others eat ice cream, Broly watches Goku and Vegeta spar. During the match, an ice cream tub flies onto the top of Whis' staff, preventing him from noticing the top of it lighting up with the call Bulma's trying to get through to him. On Earth, Korin gives Piccolo the only 2 senzu beans he has. Piccolo gets a call back from Bulma saying she has had no luck contacting Whis. Gohan doesn't seem to want to take action. Piccolo cannot risk jeopardizing Android 17 or 18, since Hedo might find their weak points and Boo cannot wake up from his sleep. We'll talk about the whole Boo falling asleep is overdone thing when we get to the Universal Survival Saga. Because man, that is overdone as hell. With few options left to defend the Earth, Piccolo remembers the Grand Elder Guru having unlocked Gohan and Krillin's latent potential back on Namek, and flies up to Dende to ask if he can perform a similar process for him. Dende says he can't, as he is too young, but upgrades the Dragon Balls to be able to do so instead. Piccolo wonders if he can collect the Dragon Balls in time, but Dende notes that Bulma already likely has them gathered, using them for a very selfish wish. Piccolo heads to Capsule Corporation to meet Bulma. There, Piccolo takes the first wish and has Shenron unlock his latent potential, even noting that he also threw in a little extra. Bulma uses the other 2 wishes on minor cosmetic changes before she realizes to her horror that they could have used a wish to bring Goku and Vegeta back to Earth. When Piccolo chastises her for it, she points out that he hadn't thought of it either. He sheepishly flies back to Red Ribbon HQ. Yeah, that's why Bulma keeps collecting the Dragon Balls, just for cosmetic stuff, because she's, a little selfish. Back at the base, and eager to hasten their plans, Magenta and Carmine devise a plan to lure in Gohan. Knowing he has a daughter, they decide to kidnap her to lure him into the base, to avoid unveiling themselves to the public. Piccolo, still in his Red Ribbon uniform, volunteers to go on a mission to kidnap Pan as he claims to be familiar with her, being the famous Mr. Saiyin's granddaughter. Piccolo is paired up with another soldier, number 15, for the mission. Piccolo's alias is number 94, by the way. Piccolo then figures out that going through with a staged kidnapping may be what it takes to snap Gohan back into action. The soldier number 15 arrives at Pan's kindergarten but is instantly knocked unconscious by her when he tries to claim he's there to take her home. She recognizes Piccolo by his key, and he takes her and the unconscious number 15 back onto the Red Ribbon plane, and explains to her the whole plan. Aboard the plane, Piccolo reveals the plan and delivers her to Red Ribbon's base. Pan pretends to be in terror, and a recording used to lure Gohan in, Piccolo and number 15 show up at Gohan's house to deliver the message. Gohan is unperturbed by number 15 holding a gun at his face, just flicking it away because he's a Saiyan and guns don't affect them. But when he pulls out the footage of Pan on a phone, that's when he gets mad. Gohan flies out of the window and powers up into Super Saiyan, creating a massive crater that causes his house to topple a slight bit. In a panic, number 15 apologizes and politely asks Gohan to come along with, ensuring him Pan is unharmed. Gohan arrives at the base and immediately rushes towards Pan, who is waiting at the top of a tower behind a crowd of soldiers, the higher-ups, and the Gammas. Gamma 1 intervenes in the 2 battle, with Gohan being at a disadvantage even as a Super Saiyan. Piccolo and Pan fake a performance in which he acts like he is a soldier and lifts her up by the collar and threatens her, only to be surprised when the Gammas protest his actions. Nevertheless, the move causes Gohan to unleash his potential and re-release Ultimate Gohan, where he begins to gain the upper hand again. Gamma 2 is ordered into the fight as backup, but Piccolo intervenes to stop him, using his new awakened form, and pretty much dropping his whole Red Ribbon Army soldier ruse. Gamma 2 reveals he also had more power and puts Piccolo on the back foot again. Momentarily defeated and falling into a crevice in the base, Piccolo remembers Shenron's words about throwing in a little extra. A sigil alights on his back. His skin turns orange as the antenna stands on end. He grows much bulkier. With this stronger form that he names Orange Piccolo, he takes out Gamma 2 with a single punch. Yeah, Orange Piccolo is strong as hell. I guess I'll talk about the form for a little bit. It's fine. I do like that they gave Piccolo a new form. That way he's not as insignificant as usual, with Goku and Vegeta being gods and all. But, I don't know, the design's a bit weird. I like the whole midsection, the head part with the orange, but they keep the arms the same green color as his usual base form. It's just a lot bulkier. And, I'm not gonna lie, it looks really weird. But the red eyes are cool, so you know what? The form is fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just okay. Pan, meanwhile, begins plowing through Red Ribbon soldiers, and with Magenta and Carmine seeing the Gammas losing their advantage, they start to retreat. Threatened by Pan, Carmine fires a gun at her. With Pan dodging all his shots, outraged at Carmine's actions, the Gammas finally realize they've been had and cease their fight with Gohan and Piccolo. And then Pan knocks out Carmine while Magenta gets to run away. Dr. Hedo heads out after him. The battle is seemingly over, everyone regroups now with the Gammas in tow. Bulma arrives, having brought Trunks, Goten, Krillin, and Android 18 as backup. And Trunks and Goten aren't annoying anymore, which is a plus. Piccolo is surprised to see Goten and Trunks have grown so much since they last met. Gohan notes that Saiyans remain small until they hit a certain age, at which point they have a radical growth spurt. Gohan asks Piccolo about his new form, and Piccolo notes that Shenron was quite generous with his bonus. Gohan asks him to give it a name, and being told by Gohan he was Orange, he arbitrarily decides on Orange Piccolo. Inside the base, Magenta prepares to awaken Cell Max. When Dr. Hedo tries to stop him, Magenta shoots him and begins to undo more of Cell Max's restraints. Hedo gets up, reminding him of his toughened skin, and Magenta reveals that he's gone through some upgrades as well, removing his suit to show the cybernetically enhanced body underneath. He prepares to fight, but is instead stung on the back of the neck by Hachimaru, who begins to kill him. Magenta uses his final moments to undo the final locks on Cell Max, who begins to break free from his chamber, and he destroys the control panel, that way Hedo can't reverse it. The sky darkens and Cell Max, a gigantic red creature resembling second form Cell with wings, explodes from below the base. Piccolo tosses a senzu bead to Gohan, but he fails to catch it without his glasses on, and it bounces out of his hands and falls into a crevice. Goten, Trunks, 18, the Gammas, Piccolo, and Gohan, tired from the previous battle and only capable of going Super Saiyan, charges into combat against Cell Max, while Krillin stays back with Pan and Bulma. Because he's a bit of a coward. The Gammas reveal that Dr. Hedo has built a weakness into the top of Cell Max's head. They'll have to penetrate it to kill him. With no one able to make much progress and Cell Max shrugging off even an explosive demon wave from Piccolo aimed directly at his weak point, Goten and Trunks attempt to fuse. They slip up, producing the fat version of Gotenks. I believe they call it Tekon? I'm going to call it Tekon because I really don't know. No, Tekken. Tekken attempts to go Super Saiyan but fails. After being pinballed around from Cell Max to several other characters, he headbutts Cell Max directly on the weak point, producing some cracks on Cell Max's head. Gamma 2 plans to sacrifice himself to deliver the final blow, gathering all his energy from above and driving himself through Cell Max. With the cooperation of the rest of the team, Cell Max is put in position for the charged up Gamma 2 to strike, but he's blocked at the last second, only managing to take off Cell Max's arm. To escape the resulting explosion, Pan finally learns how to fly. Enraged Cell Max tries to stomp the unconscious Dr. Hedo and Gamma 2's lifeless body, but Piccolo intervenes, returning to his Orange Piccolo form to hold up Cell Max's foot. Krillin reminds him of his gigantification technique from the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai that he used against Goku, and encourages him to use it as well. Piccolo becomes a giant but still struggles against Cell Max. Piccolo puts his hopes in Gohan, telling him that he will hold Cell Max in place long enough for Gohan to get in one full power attack on the weak point. He offers Gohan the last senzu bean from his belt and engages in an uphill battle with support from the others, while Gohan charges his power. Cell Max manages an attack that seems as if it's killed Piccolo, causing Gohan to awaken past his potential unleashed into a new form with white hair and red eyes, also known as Beast Gohan. Let's talk a little bit about Beast Gohan. It's awesome. This is the form that I absolutely love from this movie. The white hair looks sick. The way it looks, extremely unique for this franchise. Along with the purple and red gi, perfect. The red eyes, beautiful. And I know it's a bit of a stretch, but this reminds me a lot of Hypersonic. Like, I can't be the only one getting that vibe, you know, the silver or white hair with the red eyes. Like, it's Hypersonic. But even cooler. And also I want to talk about Kyle Herbert's Beast Gohan voice for a little bit. As many people have been making connections to Super Saiyan 4 with this voice performance. Giving it a bit more of a beastly, gruffer tone. And it sounds awesome. So, yeah. Long story short, Beast Gohan is awesome. Plain and simple. Beast Gohan easily withstands Cell Max's attack before returning one of his own, overwhelming him very quickly. Cell Max begins charging a massive ball of energy, which he collapses into one concentrated blast. Piccolo recovers and holds Cell Max in place as he tosses his energy ball, and Gohan, instead of performing a usual Kamehameha like you'd expect from a movie like this, instead Gohan goes straight for the special beam cannon, running through both Cell Max's attack and his head. Cell Max falls to the ground and explodes while the group escapes from the blast. Yeah, awesome that they actually let him use special beam cannon instead of Kamehameha. Like, nothing wrong with the Kamehameha, it's the most iconic attack in the franchise, but I mean, after a while, you want something different. This gave us something different, and I freaking love that it gave us something different, so yeah, props to the movie for giving us a different finisher than usual. It's not Kamehameha, it's not Spirit Bomb, it's a freaking special beam cannon. And it's the most lethal that it's ever been since it killed Goku. So, yeah. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the Saiyan Saga. In the aftermath, Pan runs up to Gohan and Piccolo, who revert back to their base form. Gohan and Pan embrace, and Piccolo congratulates Gohan. Gohan notes that even had his father and Vegeta been around, they might not have been able to defeat Cell Max. That's fair, because Goku has a Master Ultra Instinct, and Vegeta still hasn't unlocked Ultra Ego, so that's fair. Piccolo says that's exactly why it's important for Gohan to stay prepared and continue his training. Gamma 2, drained of energy, disintegrates as Dr. Hedo and Gamma 1 watch. Piccolo states that in the end, Gamma 2 really was a superhero. Dr. Hedo is repentant of his actions, knowing he was being used and chose not to care, and offers to hand himself over to the police. However, Bulma offers the repentant Dr. Hedo and Gamma 1 places at Capsule Corporation, as Dr. Hedo's skin serum may prove useful in cosmetic research. With the latest threat dealt with, Pan happily flies around everybody. Pretty much showing off to Piccolo. In a post-credit scene, Vegeta and Goku are both exhausted from their fight, which literally took the duration of this entire second and third act of the movie. To the point that they can hardly even move, let alone stand. Vegeta throws a weak punch at Goku, who finally topples over, followed by Vegeta. Vegeta happily remarks that he finally beat Kakarot. Beerus has fallen asleep while Chilai is happy that their dull fight is finally over, but Lemo and Broly have both been moved to tears. And then it ends with her making a comment about men. And then, of course, Whis finally answers Bulma's call, and Bulma, rightfully just decides to pretend none of it happened and just hangs up the call. That's fair enough. So that's the story of Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Great story in my opinion. Yes, there is some retread, and I wish they didn't bring back another legacy villain, but they found an interesting, different way to do it, and I mean, it led to a pretty decent final battle. Nowhere near on par with the final battle of the last movie. Like, that's the greatest fight scene in all of animation, but it's still really good. And I love the fights with the Gammas. The Gammas themselves are great characters. Even though Hedo is a little bit hit or miss. Like, he has a decent personality and really good voice acting, but I feel like he needs more development to really become a likable or good character. So, yeah. That is DBS Superhero's story. In my opinion, it is great. It is fantastic. It is very well done, and it's a nice, subtle homage to the superhero genre of North American cinema, which is, according to Akira Toriyama, his biggest inspiration for this movie was the superhero genre of North American cinema. And you can definitely see it, but it's not done in a way that feels like it's a backhanded remark, like, our stuff's better than your stuff, ha ha. No, it feels like a loving homage to the genre. And in its own way, it kind of is its own superhero film. And in that way, it works really well. Not to mention, it's great that we finally get a movie that focuses on the side characters again. Yes, I know we technically had that in BoJack, but BoJack failed at that. This is BoJack done right. It takes the side characters that rarely ever get any development because Goku and Vegeta are always at the forefront, and gives them some really much needed time to shine. And they don't waste a single second. It's really well done here. So, yeah. I really love the story of this movie, and I think it is very well done. The writing is great. There's some very funny moments, lots of callbacks to OG Dragon Ball, and you know, it serves like a nice epilogue for the Red Ribbon Army, their true final demise. Alright, now we'll talk a little bit about timeline placement, since this is not over an hour long like the last one. And then we'll go straight into voice acting. Timeline placement. Pan is 3 years old in the film, indicating that it takes place before the Peaceful World saga, or aka the original ending, a Z with Oob and whatever that leads into the awful Dragon Ball GT. Where she is 4. The film occurs right before the original manga's final chapter. The film occurs at some point after the Granola Survival Saga. However, the film was written purely as a sequel to DBS Broly, and so the Galactic Patrol Prisoner and Granola Survival Sagas are not referenced or even mentioned due to being created in parallel with the film. Which is interesting, because it means that this movie didn't have any manga to actually follow. Instead, it created its own thing while the manga already technically had its own story. So it's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate Granola and the whole Galactic Eater Moro saga into the actual animated canon. So, yeah, it's a timeline placement. Pretty decent little time jump from the last one, and thus explains why some of them, like Android 18 and Bulma, have very drastic different designs. And of course, Pan's 3 years old, so. Alright, let's talk about our voice casts. Kyle Herbert's Gohan, Chris Prasad's Piccolo, Gianni Tirado is Pan. She does a fantastic job, and I don't remember if she did or didn't voice her in GT. I'll have to look that up later. Sean Shenmue Goku, Chris Prasad's Vegeta, Sunny Straight's Krillin, Monica Rial's Bulma. I already said my whole piece about her in the DBS Broly review, but she can still rot in hell. Eric Vale is Trunks, finally, in the main timeline, not just Future Trunks, and he does a great job. Robert McCullum is now Goten, he does a good job. And then we have Fat Gotenks, which is voiced by Robert McCullum and Eric Vale. 18 is voiced by Meredith McCoy, and then we get to the big change of the movie, Broly, who's now voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, who, for those of you that may know that name from somewhere else, allow me to note 2 other things you may know this guy from. First, he was Adam, the second Mighty Morphin Black Power Ranger, that came in towards the latter half of Season 2 of MMPR. And then you also may know him for his many, many other voice roles in anime. Like, he's done a lot of them. But I think the most well-known one is Yusuke Urameshi in Yu Yu Hakusho. So, yeah, they definitely got someone talented to replace Vic. And like I said in my other review, I don't mean any ill will towards Johnny Young Bosch. He's a very talented voice actor, and I mean, we'll always remember him for being a very good Power Ranger. So, yeah. And as Broly, while he doesn't really get to do a whole lot, because Broly is very much a side character in this movie, he's still pretty good. Like, he still does a good job with Broly's mannerisms and personality, and his screaming a little bit in the beginning part when Goku and him are sparring. So, yeah, Johnny Young Bosch does a really good job as Broly, and he does even better in Dragon Ball FighterZ. But the point is, I mean, he does a great job. I just wish it was under better circumstances that actually happened. So, anyway, moving on. Jason Douglas is Beerus, Ian Sinclair is Whis, Mike McFarlane, Yajirobe. Yes, Yajirobe's back again. Christopher Sabat is Corrin. Corrin's also back again in the movie, which is, it's been a hot minute since we've seen them in a movie. Justin Cook is Dende, because now Dende is pretty much a full-grown adult. And he's pretty much reprising his role from Battle of Gods. Erica Lindbeck is back as Chi-Lai. Bruce Carey is back as Lemo. Kara Edwards is back as Videl. Christopher Sabat is also Shenron. Alex Lee is Gamma 1. Does a good job. Zeno Robinson is Gamma 2. He does a great job. Zach Aguilar is Dr. Hedo. He does a good job. Charles Martinet, as I already stated, the voice of Mario. Well, who was the voice of Mario but recently retired and just had his 66th birthday, is the voice of Magenta. He does an amazing job. Like, you really wouldn't recognize that it's him if you didn't know beforehand. Then you have Jason Mornacha as Carmine. He's okay. Damian Clark, the original voice of Cell, is back as Cell Max, even though it's just for screaming. It's still a nice little treat for fans, and he still does a good job. And then Danny Chambers is Janet, and she's okay. So, yeah, the voice cast here is still really good. There's a lot of pretty good emphasis on the side characters, and it's the first time we've seen Dende and Videl since Battle of Gods, since they weren't in Resurrection F. Well, weren't much in Resurrection F, and then they weren't in DBS Broly at all. So, yeah, that's that. That's the voice cast. Now let's go straight to the written review. This one is not nearly as long as the other one, so this one shouldn't take very long. Here it is. Outstanding 3D animation, even though I will always prefer 2D, that's just my personal taste. Great story, sharp writing, fun new characters, love the Gammas. I think they're really cool characters, and I wish they got to do more in this movie, besides just being pawns, but they do a pretty good job, and Gamma 2 does, he is a great standout role in the movie. Excellent voice acting, especially from Mario himself. Charles Martinet is the main antagonist. I'm sorry I've already stated this 3 times, but it's a big deal, okay? I mean, it's Mario in a Dragon Ball movie. I mean, when did you think you would ever be able to say a phrase like that? Solid pacing, a much-needed focus on the character development of the side characters instead of the main ones to vary things up. 2 awesome transformations, a good final battle with an amazing finisher that's unlike anything from the previous movies, because it's not a Kamehameha or a Spirit Bomb. Solid runtime, lots of funny moments, tons of callbacks, and pretty high rewatchability. However, it's not nearly on par with DBS Broly for a few reasons. Cell Max is a very boring final boss. Damian Clark does a great job as the voice, and it's awesome to have the original voice of Cell back again. But all he does is scream. We don't get anything. We don't get any personality. We don't get any witty banter or dialogue. He just yells and screams the whole time. Lame. And the colors, the red and the green, no. There's a reason. And why the second form of Cell? Isn't that the one that is the most hated by most people? Because he looks, in the words of one of the original editors of Dragon Ball Z's manga, a moron. Yeah, I don't know why they did that. That is just weird to me. But yeah, he's a very boring final boss. Especially compared to the awesome way that Broly turned out when they brought his character back. So, yeah, pretty huge bummer. The final act drags its feet a bit to get to the climax. Dr. Hedo is just okay and needs some more development to become an actual likable character. The beginning is once again pretty slow, and while the 3D animation is outstanding, nothing will top the gorgeous 2D animation of the previous installment, which literally invented its own art style. Like, you cannot take that away from DBS Broly. That is one of the biggest reasons why that movie is so amazing. Because instead of just recycling the same animation style they used in Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, instead, they decided to take everything, scrap it, build it all up from scratch, and pretty much make their own unique visual art style that keeps all the fundamentals of Dragon Ball animation, but adds a nice little layer of unique, almost Miyazaki-like flair and color to it. So, yeah, really, really good 3D animation, but just nothing's going to top the 2D of Broly. Nothing. And finally, the movie's title itself is dumb and a bit more than a little bit redundant. I mean, Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Super's already in the freaking main title. I mean, come on. Really? You couldn't come up with a better name than that? Overall, though, this is still a fantastic movie despite all that I just complained about. It made my top 5 best list of last year, and watching it now, it has still earned that spot. Sure, it's not nearly as amazing as DBS Broly, but it's still a great time in its own right and is a great homage to the North American superhero movie genre. Highly recommended, don't let the unique animation drive you away, definitely check this one out. Oh, and don't forget to stay for the post-credit scenes. Stay for those post-credit scenes, they're pretty funny and enjoyable, so... yeah, that's everything I can say about Dragon Ball Super Superhero. It is a fantastic movie. It earned its spot in my top 5 best list from last year, not just because of my own bias, but because it's a fantastic movie in its own right. And it was a lot of fun to watch, and even now it's still fun to watch. Is it as great as DBS Broly? Absolutely not, but it is still a great movie in its own right. It's more than worth your time. It's funny, it's lighthearted, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah. Final verdict for Dragon Ball Super Superhero is going to be an easy high 9.5 out of 10. Definitely check this one out. Do not let that 3D animation scare you away. And not to mention, I mean, we already had 3D animation in the other movies, so it's not that big a deal. So, yep, that is all my thoughts on Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching all of these movie reviews. It's been quite the project, but now after 19 days, we are finally done with the movies. For now. I might go back and review the OG Dragon Ball movies eventually. But for now, that's going to be all that we wrote for the movies, because I still have to cover the sagas, and that alone is going to take a lot of time. Heck, I literally have to do 2 sagas a day to get through all of the original Dragon Balls, so I need to draw the line somewhere. So, if you want my thoughts on the OG Dragon Ball movies, wait for my updated tier list tomorrow. But for the rest of you, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I would say see you next time for our updated movie tier list, but that's not going to be it. You have one more review today, and it's the start of a series review. The first one I'm doing on this channel that's live action. One that was planned originally for Super Saiyan 77, but since you guys overwhelmingly voted to just go ahead and end that channel, we're gonna do it here instead. So, I'll see you guys next time when we do a first time watch and a first time look at the wild, crazy movie that is The Expendables. Peace.
Wanna talk about the man now. Everybody wanna follow for a handout. Everybody started copying the plan now. Tell them stand down, cause they never gonna stand out. Yeah, they'll never be surpassing me, cause I learned everything I can from my past defeats. So I've been grinding all day while you're fast asleep, just trying to turn a brainwave to a masterpiece. Make the haters make way for a master, please, or leave with a halo. Master Chief, achieve